In North America, indigenous worldviews do not typically separate culture and gods as though they belonged on two different shelves, because the sacred is not an ornamental add-on. It is the very framework through which time, territory, authority, and shared life are understood. When one speaks of Tirawa among the Pawnee, of heroes and stars in the ceremonial universe, of Red Horn, of Awonawilona and the Kokko among the Zuni, one is not listing deities like entries in an encyclopedia. One is entering systems of thought that turn the sky into a calendar, harvest into ethics, myth into pedagogy, and ritual into politics. What unites these traditions, despite their vast differences, is a shared intuition. The world is not a mute thing. It speaks. And if it speaks, then living does not consist in imposing one's will upon nature, but in learning how to converse with it, to ask, to give thanks, to measure oneself, to make amends. That the world speaks is not always literal. Sometimes it is ceremonial, sometimes symbolic. Sometimes it takes the form of social organization which, viewed from the outside, is mistaken for religion, though in truth it is a complete architecture of coexistence. Tirawa and the sky as institution. In the Pawnee case, the figure of Tirawa, or Aish's Tirawa, appears as a creative principle, a source that not only makes the world, but orders it. Here the creator does not function merely as an explanation of origins, but as a guarantee of coherence, because under a creative principle, life is not a chaotic succession of accidents, but a woven fabric with direction, even if that direction is not always legible to the individual. What is striking is that this order does not remain sealed within abstraction. In many societies of the Great Plains, the relationship with the sky, stars, cycles, cardinal points, is not astronomical romanticism, but cultural technology. The firmament functions as a text that teaches when to move camp, when to plant, when to wait, when to prepare. The sky is not a static backdrop. It articulates a norm. Here the figures of the morning star and the evening star enter with particular force, linked to cycles that touch the agricultural, the vital, and the social. When a culture locates the pulse of subsistence in the movement of the heavens, it reveals a precise idea. Human life does not command time. It synchronizes with it. And that synchronization requires discipline, memory, and community. Socially, this has a profound effect. If the calendar depends on shared observation, knowledge does not belong to an isolated individual. It belongs to a network. Authority is grounded not only in force or inheritance, but also in the capacity to safeguard rhythms. The leader is not merely the one who decides. He is the one who keeps the tempo. When the agricultural cycle comes into view, another dimension appears, the economy as ritual. This differs sharply from modern imaginaries in which economy is understood as calculation, contract, and maximization. In many indigenous worldviews, economy is understood as reciprocity. Nothing is taken from the earth without being paid for in some way, sometimes through offering, through respect, through restraint, through limits, through gratitude, through redistribution. The deeper meaning is clear. If subsistence depends on forces you do not control, arrogance is suicidal, and humility ceases to be a moralistic gesture and becomes a strategy for survival. Red Horn, semi-divine heroes, and stars as a politics of power. In the broader ceremonial world, often associated with the Mississippian sphere, heroic narratives and stellar images frequently operate as tools of social cohesion and legitimation. The semi-divine hero, Red Horn in certain tellings, is not simply a mythical adventurer, but a figure who teaches how vulnerability is given form, how danger is transformed into a shared destiny. Semi-divine heroes, in general, fulfill a double function. On the one hand, they dramatize the possibility of the extraordinary, showing that the world can open, that the human can be lifted, that allied forces exist. On the other hand, they also warn that the extraordinary always has a cost. A hero is often someone who learns too late the measure of his own strength, and that lesson serves as public caution. When Morning Star appears within a southeastern ceremonial complex, the symbol grows denser. The morning star is not merely an object in the sky. It is an emblem that binds cosmic order to social order. Dawn is transition, daily rebirth, confirmation that the world repeats itself without ever being identical. To associate power with that star can be read as an attempt to anchor legitimacy in something that seems beyond dispute, the return of light. In societies with more marked hierarchies, where ceremonial centers and ritual elites play a significant role, astral symbols can function as a bridge between authority and cosmos, not necessarily as conscious manipulation, but as structural necessity. Every community must justify why someone rules, why certain places are central, why certain rites must be repeated. The reference to the star and to cycles offers an answer. As the sky has order, so too does human life. Yet this bridge is not ideology alone. It is also responsibility. If authority is justified in cosmic terms, then bad governance is not merely an administrative error. It is a rupture of balance. The heroic figure, and even the possibility of his fall, can serve precisely to remind that power is fragile and can bend toward excess. A key point emerges here. Ceremonial complexes do not only produce meaning, they produce community. They organize gatherings, redistributions, alliances, marriages, shared memories. The sacred becomes infrastructure. It can sustain peace among groups, coordinate calendars, affirm identities. And when narratives are anchored in stars or in semi-divine heroes, what is being said is this: the community is not a mere sum of interests, but a continuity worthy of being narrated as though it belonged to the order of the universe. In this context, the morning star functions as a moral clock, reminding us that every cycle brings a beginning and a reckoning. What is done at night is seen at dawn. What is hidden is exposed. What is crooked is straightened or paid for. Zuni, Awonawilona, and the Kokko as an ecology of relation. Among the Zuni, the creator Awonawilona often appears as an originating principle not limited to having created in the past, but still implicated in the way the world breathes. In many worldviews, creation is not a closed act. It is a process remembered and renewed. The world is not made once and for all. It is sustained through practices, narratives, ceremonies, responsibilities. This becomes especially clear when the Kokko, the Kachina beings, enter the scene. They generate a fascinating cultural phenomenon in which the divine becomes social presence. The Kachinas are not merely beings from beyond. They are a way of educating and transmitting values, of embodying forces of nature, rain, fertility, growth.